We've been seeing history in the making. We don't quite know what that history is going to say, of course. It may be the greatest comeback in American politics. Donald Trump, the disgraced one-term, twice-impeached, criminally convicted president who was widely seen as an unelectable pariah after he incited a deadly insurrection on Capitol Hill on January 6th to stop the certification of his valid election defeat last time. Nobody thought that he could become the Republican nominee again, much less seeming to be on the precipice of winning the second president in history after Grover Cleveland to win a second non-consecutive term. Now, must say, Chaz, that Democrats that we're speaking to are not yet giving up on the Rust Belt, those three blue wall states. While ever there's life, there is hope in those states. But it seems very much from the other side, Chaz, that they're quite confident that Trump is going to win this election, and you've been looking at the reasons why. The exit polls that tell us who voted, for whom did they vote, and why did they vote? Yeah,
for what it's worth, while it's way too early to call, the map is looking extremely 2016-y to me, I'm going to say. But why? There's some very interesting... Now, we should just say with the exit polls, they do get adjusted over time, so these numbers are going to change slightly over time, and they're not always 100% accurate. But there's still some very interesting things to note from the exit polls. The first of which is we spoke for the last month about the black vote and about how Donald Trump was making inroads into the black vote. You'd think since Donald Trump seems to have gone quite well, that would show in the exit polls. Actually, the black vote hasn't changed at all. For black men or for black women, it's basically identical from 2020 to 2024. That was a furphy. By contrast, the vote for Latinos has changed significantly. The Republicans went from winning 36% of Latino men to 53% of Latino men, from 30% of Latino women to 37% of Latino women. So that was significant.
All while describing Puerto Rico as an island of garbage, or at least Tony Hinchcliffe, his comedian and warm-up act, described him as such. A lot of people would assume that Trump should struggle with the Latino vote because the majority of the 11 million undocumented workers in the United States who he now wants to deport, the majority of them are Latinos. But it seems the Latinos who are in America don't see that as a threat to them. They just see a bunch of queue jumpers and people that give us a bad name.
Apparently, the numbers suggest, otherwise. Also, another surprise for me, especially given how much abortion was an issue during this election, was the gender gap is smaller than 2020, according to the exit polls. In fact, women went from 57-42 in 2020 to 54-44 in 2024. They went from a 15-point gap, a partisan gap between women, to a 10-point partisan gap, and the men basically stayed exactly the same.
So there are going to be questions about gender and race coming out of all of this, including whether there is what they used to refer to in American politics as the Bradley effect, that an African-American candidate or a candidate of colour does more poorly at the actual election than they did in the opinion polls because some people are just quietly racist and they won't pull the lever in the privacy of a booth, but they will tell a pollster they'll vote for the black candidate. Maybe there is a gendered Bradley effect working against Kamala Harris here. The other theory that we're hearing, which is interesting, is to say all of these ballot measures that put abortion on the ballot may have in fact given a lot of men and women permission to vote in favour of abortion rights, but then also in favour of Donald Trump. Instead of bringing out the anti-abortion access vote, they may have cancelled each other out. So many interesting tea leaves are being drawn through right now, but for now, it's back to the ABC Election Centre.